What's up, everybody? My name's Mike. This is All Things Fish, and thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to take a look at what is slowly going to become the new fish room and give you guys an idea of what I have envisioned in this mess of a nugget up here, and see if you can kind of let me know what you think, what you would do with the space, and how you might go about doing things, what you might expect to spend, and we'll compare and see kind of where we're at. So this is my basement, and it is a older house built in 1928. As you can tell by the foundation, it's not modern by any means. It's not particularly finished, and that's okay, because that means that if I spill water on the floor, or something catastrophic happens, I don't have to worry too much about it. Just have a little bit of a mess to clean up, not a whole lot of damage to be concerned about. But today we're going to go do a little walkthrough, give you guys a look at just kind of what this room looks like now, so that you can get a little bit of a before, and then hopefully sooner than later, and after, and see kind of what things looked like and how we went about getting them to where hopefully they'll eventually end up. Sorry this video is getting to you a little bit late. It's been busy, things have been hectic. As you can see, I'm kind of a mess, but we're getting there. We're gonna make some things happen. But without further ado, let's cut out the babbling and let's take a look. So here we are in what will be the fish room in the basement of an old house built in the 20s. So we're almost 100 years old, but this thing's sturdy, and we're gonna make something happen. Now, as you can see, that right there is going to be, currently it's an entry door. I don't know if I'm gonna keep it there or not. For the time being, until we make some big changes in the room, that will be the main entrance to the room. And as you can see, try not to make you guys sick here, it's not a particularly large room. It's roughly about 12 by 14. So we're gonna make do with a small space here. So the current plan on that wall there is to have a rack of tanks on both the left and the right side. So you walk in, you have tanks on your left and right. If you look over here, you'll see some storage cabinets, and I plan to keep those just the way they are, and that opens up into a separate area of the basement. And you can also see above up there, it is open, so I will be closing that off. I plan to use some pink board and maybe fully studding up a wall, but for right now we got to close that off to keep the heat in, the humidity in here, so the rest of the house doesn't get all crazy. But these cabinets right here, we plan on leaving those alone. Those should work just fine. My recliner, that's going to be the comfy chair there, it will live in this room eventually. So we see these cabinets here. Like I said, they're pretty good size, so those be used mostly just for storage. And then, as I mentioned, this area that goes out into the other section of the basement, I'm not sure if I'm going to close that off. I could put additional storage there perhaps, or I may make that the new entrance. Now, right now as it sits, it's only about 24 inches, which is enough for me to get in and out, but it's pretty tough to get any equipment in and out as far as large tanks, etc. go. So may end up blocking this one off and still using the main entrance over there on that wall here. But we'll proceed around the room, try to give you guys a good look. And sorry, I don't have a wide angle camera right now. We'll see what we can do in the future to make things better as the budget hopefully increases. But currently, as you can see, that is a rack of 340 breeders. That's not going to stay there. That will hopefully go over by the door that I initially showed you when we walked in the room, about where that lazy boy recliner was. Instead, this acrylic 180 behind me, whoop, right there, that will go on a stand with a sump, and that will span the majority of that wall. That is a 6-foot tank. That wall is about 10-11 feet, so it should cover up that spot quite nicely. Continuing around the room, you can see there is a circuit breaker panel back there. So doing some electrical work in this room will be quite easy, just because I have such simple access to that. and I actually think I'm going to expand and just add a small dedicated breaker panel for this room here. And if you look up at the ceiling is all open, so I'll run all my air lines up in the ceiling, all my electrical stuff, get it up out of the way, and try to minimize any cords here. And then I think, you know, I'm going to need to have access to that corner next to that breaker panel. So I think I might put like a workstation there, a small bench or something that I can stand at to bag fish or plants, or just to, you know, maybe set it up to just do, you know, odds and ends maintenance on filters. Continuing around the room, you can see that I have this rack that held tanks previously in the small little closet, and I'm going to reuse this, but I'm actually going to use, right now it's about 4 feet tall, I'm going to make it about 7 feet tall so that I can stack the tanks 3 high on it. So I'll use like 10s and 20s on the middle and on top, and the bottom rack will be 75s for some of the bigger fish or some bigger growouts. And as you can see, that does span that whole wall for the time being. So that'll cover up that section. And you know, as far as the number of tanks goes, I can fit as many as I have room for on there. So if I run 10s, I'll have, you know, a ton of 10-gallon tanks. I plan on mixing it up as far as tank sizes. In that corner, you know, I talked about putting the rack of 340 breeders over here. And if you remember the fish closet build video, I had a rack of 8 acrylic tanks that are about 15-16 gallons. I think I'm going to put those on this side of the doorway, and I may plumb those. Just on the other side of that wall is my washer, my dryer, utility sink, my RO, storage barrels. I've got 2 55-gallon barrels. I'm going to put those back there. So it'd be pretty easy to plumb those since they're already drilled for overflows and fill, to run like an auto water change system on those tanks and use those for growouts and just help keep the water a little bit cleaner. Now eventually I do have some space about 5 feet on the other side of this wall, so I'd actually like to take this wall, tear it out. As you can see, you know, there's a big gap up there. I'll cover it up temporarily until I'd hopefully take this wall, move it back about 4 feet to give me another 4 feet in this room, and just really spread things out, make a little space. I see a lot of closet builds, a lot of rooms where there's just no real space to enjoy the room. So I'm trying to make things a little bit more enjoyable. I may not have a million tanks in here, and that's okay. I just want this to be an enjoyable space that I can hang out and work on stuff. Now there is room potentially, you know, to potentially run, you know, a rack or two out into the middle of the room. I don't know if I want that many tanks, to be honest, and like I said, I do want there to just be space in here because I want this to be a place that I can come down, hang out in, and I'd like to, like I said, this 40 breeders are going to disappear. The 180 will go there as a display. Probably mount a TV up on top so I can hang out downstairs and escape to some peace and quiet, or just hang out at night, or you know, just enjoy the fish room. And I feel like a lot of fish rooms are built and they're all about work, and this is going to be a working fish room, don't get me wrong. We're going to breed a lot of fish in here, we're going to grow a lot of plants in here, but at the end of the day, I want this to be a place that I can come down here and just relax and enjoy what I've built and the things that I've collected. So as you can see in that corner, that's my old air loop, and we'll reuse what we can from that, but we'll probably end up running a lot of new PVC. As I mentioned, the ceiling is open, so we're just going to run PVC all the way around a loop, and I will do a build on the air loop itself and how I plan on doing that. Currently I do have a Gemco LPH 45 piston pump, which works great. I love it. I may upgrade to the next size, which I believe is the 60, just to have a little bit of room for expansion in the future. Well, it's always better to be a little overpowered than underpowered. Taking a look, you know, at things that I've done before I move stuff into here, I did epoxy the floor, and I used the Rust-Oleum floor epoxy kit. I think all in all, it took me maybe a couple hours to get it done, and maybe 70 or 80 bucks for this small room, and I used about half the kit, so I do have more. And in a future video, I'll talk about, you know, this video, the point is to introduce you to the room, kind of tell you what I plan on doing in here. But I do have a video in the works that focuses on doing the epoxy coat on the floor. As you can see under the doorway there, I did an epoxy outside, so when hopefully I do move this ball back, we will have to epoxy the floor over there. Same over here. So I do have much more basement on the other side of here. These cabinets actually are somewhat under a stairwell. You can always see it. Stairwell runs that way, so it comes down behind me. Eventually, depending on how things go, if I stay in this house long term, the fish room could actually wrap around. You can see right now I'm storing all kinds of tanks back there. This fish room could wrap around to the other side of the staircase, and we could have there's a space about the same size as this on the other side. So we have a lot of room for expansion if we decide to do that. But I'm not, this isn't my business. I do this for fun. It's just a hobby. So I don't want to turn this into too much work. So I currently own about 60 tanks, and that's good. I probably won't even set all those up. Like I said, it's easy to make this too much work. And I said, it's a hobby. I want it to be fun. I don't want it to be a pain in the butt. I don't want to dread coming down here and having to do 100 water changes. Obviously, you can set up an auto water change system, but then if you're just never in the room, you don't get to enjoy it. Like, oh, it's automated. I don't have to do anything. But I like to be down here. I like to tinker. I like to have my hands in the tanks and see how things are doing. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Like I said, so it's approximately like an 11 by 14 room right now. Could stretch it out to about 11 by 18, 11 by 19 maybe if we move that wall. If we move that wall back, we got some room for expansion, and eventually, like I said, just around the corner, there's a space about the same size. So it could happen far down the road, but we'll see. But thanks for tuning in. Let me know what you think. Let me know, what mistakes you've made maybe in your fish room build that you think I should avoid or try to avoid, and help me out. And hopefully, this may inspire you to clean up a space that you have in your basement that you're like, it's just an old nasty space we use for storage. This was an old nasty space, and it's still, there's remnants of the 70s or 80s whenever they put this wood paneling all over the place. But we're gonna clean it up. We're gonna close off, like I said, it's open up above the walls. We're gonna close some things off, make sure this room stays nice and warm. I do plan to just heat the room, not individual tanks, so it's going to be important that we close the room off, and then that'll keep heat in, that'll reduce moisture getting to the rest of the house. And then I will run, a heater in this room as well as a dehumidifier so that things don't get too out of hand in here. But that's all for now. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we see you next Tuesday for the live stream and chit chat, and have a good night.